All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever stopped to think what our world would look like if it was built on one of the oldest moral codes out there? We're exploring a fascinating thought experiment today, something called the Decalogue vision. It's basically a blueprint for a society that, well, it would be radically different from anything we know. So let's explore it. Okay, so this is the big question, the one that kicks this whole thing off. What if an entire society, and I mean everyone, followed the 10 Commandments perfectly? No exceptions. Just think about that for a second. How would that change, well, literally everything about how we live, how we work, how we even talk to each other?
Now, let's be super clear about something right up front. We're not arguing that this is a realistic scenario. It's not. The whole point here is the thought experiment itself. It's about using these rules as a kind of lens, to see what kind of deep principles are actually at play and how they might shape a society.
So where do we even begin to build a society like this? Well, it all starts with one core idea. Think of it like the foundation of a skyscraper. It's this shared sense of purpose, and it's the bedrock that everything else, and I mean everything, is built on. So what is this transcendent purpose? It's a pretty big concept, but it boils down to this. Imagine a world where every single person freely chooses to aim their life at something bigger than just them. Maybe that's God, maybe it's a deep commitment to truth, or maybe it's the good of the whole community. The key thing here is that it's not forced on anyone. It's a shared anchor that people choose to hold on to.
And this creates a really stark contrast, right? On the one hand, you've got a life that has a clear direction, like a ship with a rudder, guided by this stable, higher value. And on the other hand, well, you've got a life that's just tossed around by every whim, every conflicting desire. It's basically the difference between a life that makes sense and a life that's just chaotic.
So what does this lead to for society as a whole? Well, you get this incredible unity. I mean, people can still argue about, taxes or where to build a new road, but because everyone is fundamentally aiming for the same big thing, the society doesn't get torn apart by those deep ideological wars we're so familiar with. There's a common goal that's bigger than any one person's opinion.
Okay, so we have our foundation of purpose. Now, what's the first thing you build on top of that? You get a society where the entire social fabric is just woven together with trust. It's the first major pillar.
And this high-trust society doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's like a chain reaction, a set of dominoes falling. It all starts with really stable families, where commitment is the absolute norm. That stability allows kids to form these incredibly deep, secure bonds with their parents. And when you feel that safe at a fundamental level, that sense of security just naturally expands outward into the wider community. It creates a high-trust society from the ground up.
So what's it actually like to live in a world like this? Well, imagine this. Contracts are basically just a formality, because a handshake, a person's word, is all you need. Promises are just kept. Cooperation isn't some big difficult thing we have to work at. It's the default setting for how people interact. And if that's the case, you realize you just don't need these massive, complicated legal systems because people are already doing the right thing.
All right, so we've got purpose. We've got trust. What comes next? The next pillar that naturally rises up is a society built on a real, deep sense of justice. And this leads to a huge psychological shift. Think about it. If nobody steals, that's one thing. But what if nobody even wants what their neighbor has? That's the real game changer. The entire engine of envy, of resentment, of class warfare, it just sputters and dies. People can actually be happy when their neighbor gets a new car. And work? It stops being about a race to get more stuff and becomes something that gives you real meaning and satisfaction. So, the legal system in a place like this looks completely different. You'd have police who are actually trusted members of the community, not some force to be feared. The courts would be seen as genuinely fair and impartial. But here's the biggest thing. When someone does mess up, the goal isn't just to punish them. It's not about revenge. The goal is to restore them, to fix the harm, to bring them back into the community. Okay, so we've got these huge pillars in place: purpose, trust, and justice. But what about the day-to-day? What does the actual rhythm of life feel like in this society?
One of the most incredible results is what you could call a shared reality. Just imagine if everyone, the media, our leaders, our scientists, was committed to telling the truth. It means we'd all be starting from the same set of basic facts. Sure, we can still debate what to do about those facts, but the debate itself would actually be productive. It would be rational.
This place would also have a completely different vibe when it comes to work. The whole culture would value taking time to rest, to recharge. It recognizes that we're not just little cogs in a productivity machine. And that's a fundamental shift, isn't it? It's the difference between working to live a full life versus living just to work.
And one last thing about the culture here. There's this deep, genuine respect for older people and the wisdom they've gathered over a lifetime. This creates this beautiful sense of continuity, right? A connection to where you came from and a sense of responsibility for where you're going. It makes you feel like you belong to something way, way bigger than just your own short time here.
All right, let's step back for a second and look at the whole picture. We've put all these pieces together: the purpose, the trust, the justice, the whole rhythm of life. What do you get? What does it all add up to? Well, the one word that really captures it is flourishing.
And flourishing here isn't just some vague, happy idea. It means people are genuinely healthy, both physically and mentally. It means their work actually has meaning. Their relationships are deep and real. They feel that sense of purpose we talked about, and they're part of real communities that actually care about them. And you know, the source material for this thought experiment puts it perfectly. It says, this is not a utopia. And that's so important. It's not some fantasy world with no problems. People are still people, but it is fundamentally healthy. It's stable. It's a place where human beings can actually truly flourish.
So that brings us to the final big question for you to think about. We know this whole thing is a hypothetical blueprint, but if you could pick just one of these ideas and magically drop it into our world today, just one, which would it be? Would it be that shared sense of purpose, that radical deep trust, the absolute commitment to truth, or maybe that culture of rest? Which single element do you think would have the greatest impact right now?